let me just kick things off just quickly by just kind of letting you know why I'm here. So like I said, my name's Dr. JC Doornick, represent the optimal health community, but Jim's a good friend of mine. Jim and I have been friends for a long, long time. And I don't keep a lot of friends, I don't know if you resonate with that, but a lot of people look at Jim Kwik and they recognize all the work that he's done, but he's also a really, really good person. He's a good friend, somebody that I really, really lean on. And he's changed my family's life. For those of you that don't know, I read 52 books a year because of Jim, and this book right here. And I was going to try to show you a picture. I couldn't get it, but I was going to show you a picture of my daughter, Lexi. Both my boys have taken Jim's course. They're in college. I don't know if they're here tonight, Jeremy and Jackson. But Lexi and I took his course together, his speed reading course. And I can't tell you what that has unlocked for me. I mean, we just devour books. It's like we can't not read books, and the ability to retain the books. And for those parents out there, when I see my daughter, she likes her TV and she likes gaming and stuff. But when I see my daughter just devouring books, going through all of the, series of books that all the kids are reading and just crushing them, but then asking her to tell me what it was about. And she's just boom, boom, boom. I'm just really, really grateful. So this is a special guy. And a lot of people know about him because he's a best-selling author. He's got an amazing story. We're going to see a little video clip in just a second. But Jim is just worldwide, just changing people's minds, because Jim came up with a great concept long, long time ago from a very, very interesting story that he went through, like so many of you, that he just realized that nobody really ever taught us how to learn. And he had this pivotal moment. I remember this, I remember hearing this story so many times, but I watched Jim all of a sudden, just from his heart, just get into this position where he just started teaching people everything that he had learned. And he was at a disadvantage with a brain injury as a child. So you'll hear a little bit about his story, but you're about to hear a world-class speaker, educator, and communicator that is taking many, many people in the world, including some of the most famous people that and just completely empowering them with limitless potential. And he's going to talk about his new book. This book right here is just like better than a piece of pizza. But he's going to talk about his book and what is in it. And I can just tell you something. If you divulge into some of this information, this is going to go beyond what you guys call personal growth and self-development. Jim's strategies and the tools that he gives people just completely upgrades your mainframe, and you're just going to be able to operate at such a much, much, much higher frequency. So if we could, let's show the video, and then we'll bring Jim out.
One of the world's leading experts in brain performance and accelerated learning.
Expert on optimal brain performance.
Boy with a broken brain.
He's the founder of Kwik Learning.
Get ready to upgrade your brain with Jim Kwik.
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 Kwik Learning. Jim.
Jim is a brain expert.
World's leading memory coach and New York Times bestselling author, Jim Kwik.
Brain genius, Jim Kwik.
Jim, the Brain Kwik.
This is a young boy who, when he was 5 years old, had a traumatic brain injury and spent the next 15, 16 years
on learning quickly.
Instead of simply accepting defeat, he set about making up for his shortcomings through an obscene amount of hard work.
Jim's book, Limitless, is a phenomenal bestseller.
His hyper-effective techniques have been sought out by the likes of Virgin, Google,
the United States Air Force,
Nike, Zappos,
Marriott,
NBA,
SpaceX,
21st Century Fox,
Harvard, and Singularity University.
Mr. Jim Kwik is in this house.
That was so special. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in today.
I'm just trying to think about like what that would be like to, not have me introduce you, but Brendan Burchard, that must have been nice. So Jim, I just want to personally, thank you so much for being here. You just had such an impact on my family's life. And just, honor our friendship together. So, Jim, what I'd love you to do for everybody, and I'm just going to go away and let you run with this, is, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, we're in November and we're closing out this year. It's been an interesting year, wouldn't you say, everybody? And we're going into 2024 with hope. And, I know that you speak a lot about, unlocking limitless potential and also this idea of creating limitless momentum. So would love to just set you free to just do what you do best for this community. And thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah, thank you, JC. JC and Dr. Doornick and I, we go back 20 years. And it's incredible to have that kind of history and past with people, but it's just also wonderful. So I look forward to the next 20 years, my friend, and also connecting with many of you. And thank you, whether you're familiar with my work just at this moment, or whether it's been a day, or whether it's been a decade. It's my 32nd year of being a brain coach, and now I just want to pour into you, for this time that we have together. I want you to just really kind of focus on some transformation. And when people hear the word limitless, they often think, oh, is that even possible? What does that even mean? Does it mean being perfect? And let me state that limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing. It's about progressing. It's about beyond what you currently are demonstrating, beyond what you currently believe or you think that you deserve. I encourage you to take some notes also as well. And let's jump into this. I'm going to share. This is the first kind of live training. The book just came out just 2 days ago. It's called Limitless, Limitless Expanded. Upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, unlock your exceptional life. By a show of yeses in the chat here, how many of you would like to have a better brain? Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, Dawn, JC, Emily, Gloria, Nicole, Heather, amazing. Nobody wants a worse brain, right? How many of you feel like every day we're just sprinting to catch up? New technology, new people, new ideas, fast changes, endless updates. It could be happening in this optimal health community. It could be happening in your business. It could be happening in your industry, or even in your daily life. Maybe you feel overwhelmed by the growing to-do list, by the data clutter, by maybe you're stressed by all the knowledge that you must absorb, that you must process, that you must read, that you must recall. And how do you stay on top of it all and deal with it? Well, that's the subject for today. And so I'm going to give you very practical, very pragmatic, simple things you could do for yourself, for your teams, for your friends, and for your children, and also for your family. So let's jump into this. There's a quote in Limitless that really embodies what we're talking about today. It's a quote from a French philosopher. He says, life, and please write this down, life is the letter C between B and D. Life is the letter C between B and D. Let's decode that. What does that mean? B stands for birth. D stands for death. Life C, choice. Choice. That our lives are the sum total of all the choices we've made up to this point, right? Who are we going to spend time with? What are we going to eat? What are we going to do? Where are we going to live? All of that is our life today. And when it comes to choice, I believe that these difficult times, they could distract you. These difficult times, they could diminish you, or these difficult times, they could develop you. We decide, all right? Limitless is about owning our power, owning our responsibility, having sovereignty, having a personal agency and state regulation. And I'm going to show you how you could use this in your day-to-day life. Now, when we're talking about choices, we could, for the past few years, it feels like that we've been cocooning. How many of you feel like you've been kind of a little bit cocooning more than previous years? Maybe you're alone. Yes, Dawn. Or you're with your thoughts, your fears, your doubts, maybe even feeling alone. And part of the stress comes because we're clinging to a world that was rather than progressing, continuing the cycle, right? I often compare it to a butterfly, that while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth is happening where? It's happening in the cocoon. And it's that creature's willingness to be able to push through that it develops strength. Like, I don't know one strong person that had an easy life. That with challenge comes change. When people see me at events, if anyone's that see me live, if there's time, I will often do like a quick memory demonstration where maybe I'll be in front of an audience of 5,000, 6,000 people, and we'll pass around a microphone and everyone will introduce themselves. Maybe we'll get to number 50 or 100, and then I will remember all their names. Or an audience will pass around a microphone and challenge me to remember 100 random words or 100-digit number. And when I do it forwards, and then I surprise them, I do it backwards. I always tell people, I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's possible, because the truth is, you could do this too. Your kids could do this too. Your team could do this too. We just were not taught. You know, if anything, we were taught a lie, that somehow our potential, our memory, our brain function is somehow fixed like our shoe size. And now we've discovered more about the human brain in the past 20 years than the previous 2,000 years combined. And what we found is we're grossly underestimating our own capability. And the reason why I know this is because, as you heard from the video, is I grew up with some severe learning challenges. I was in special education. What spawned it was, I was 5 years old. This was in 1978. I'm in my 50s now, and I had an accident. I went headfirst into a radiator, and I was rushed to the emergency room. And where before my parents said I was very outgoing, I was very playful and energized, very curious, where it really showed up was I became very shut down, and I had processing issues where my parents, my teachers, they would have to repeat themselves over and over again. And I would eventually learn to pretend to understand, but I didn't really understand anything. I had poor focus. I had migraines almost every single day as a kid. Yeah, it was a tough time. I had a lot of self-doubt, a lot of fears, and I just wanted to be safe. And I wanted to, I never knew the answer. It took me 3 years longer just to learn how to read. And that was very frustrating. Once I got some water here, I'm just thinking about it, I get a little choked up. Leslie, you know what I'm talking about with your husband and his brain injury. And so your brain is very resilient, but it's also very fragile. And I had to work my way back to building my brain and learning how to learn from scratch. And through it all, I learned how to compensate. And I remember when I was 9 years old, one particular day, I was being teased more than usual, and that was a lot. And a teacher came to my defense, and in front of the whole class, she pointed to me and said, "Leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain. That's the boy with the broken brain." And I was like, wow, I didn't know I was broken. And how many of you have kids? You can put in the chat. You have children. How many of you once were a kid? All of us. How fast learners are children, right? How fast can the kids learn a musical instrument or another language? Their brain's very plastic. And so I'm going to ask you to be a little playful today, because I feel like somebody the other day is like, I don't play that much because I grew older. And I was like, no, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you grew older because you stopped playing. And so I want to give you some of these strategies that I've learned along the way. And now I get to serve probably half of the Fortune 500 companies and speak at institutions. This past week, I was at the United Nations again and helping them to change their belief systems and giving them strategies on how to unlock their mind to be able to reach these 17 initiatives that they have, whether it's poverty or healthcare, clean water, education, which is one of the things I'm very passionate about. In fact, we donated. I want to thank everybody who purchased our new book, Limitless Expanded, because our previous book did over 1 million copies sold. We donated all the proceeds to charity to build schools in places that they didn't have schools, and villages in Ghana, Guatemala, Kenya, also for Alzheimer's research in memory of my grandmother who passed of Alzheimer's when I was 7 years old. So when I was going through my learning challenges, My primary caregiver was my grandmother. She was just my everything. My parents, they immigrated to the United States. We lived in the back of a laundromat that my mom worked at. They had many jobs, and it's probably why I had so many brain injuries, head injuries when I was a kid, because I wasn't very well supervised. But it's interesting, how many of you believe that with struggle, you get strength? With challenge comes a level of change. So I really want to appreciate all of you for tuning in, you know, up 400 or 500 of you right now. I don't know how many of you are watching this recorded, but let's go back to life is the letter C, choice, right? We could always choose. In fact, you know, I'll give you a few things that you could use right away. There are 6 choices, I think, that are really important that we can employ right now, because so many people, out of fear, they're shrinking what's possible, their dreams, their goals, to fit their minds. When I say, hey, why don't we flip that? Why don't we expand our minds to fit really all that's possible? And it starts with our decisions that we can make. And so some of the decisions that we're working with clients, and I'll go through the strategies on, if you want to talk about it in the question and answer, and reading faster, remembering people's names. I mean, all the things that would really advance your life, memorizing speeches and client information and product information, be able to give a toast at a wedding and then not have the fear, because you own your brain, that you are the pilot of your brain. You're not the passenger. So let's write these down, 6 C's, and I tend to alliterate so it makes it more memorable. The first C is clarity. Using this time, especially during the holidays, to get some clarity. If things slow down a little bit, maybe a little time in solitude is so very important, because did you know, well, here's the magic question. A lot of people feel burnt out because they're doing too much. How many of you feel like you have too much to do? You feel like a little bit burnt out mentally or emotionally, maybe your heart. And I feel like sometimes we feel burnt out, not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing too little of the things that make us come alive, right? And so the first C is clarity. And really write this question down and try to answer it for yourself. What's most important to you in life? What's most important to you in life, in your business, you know, in your family? What's most important to you in your career? And just think about that, right? Because it's hard to hit a target that you don't know is there. And so a lot of it, I believe, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. Let's unpack that. The most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. It's not just about time management. It's about mind management, right? It's about priority management. And so clarity on what your goals are, clarity about who you are, clarity on things like your identity. They say the 2 most powerful words in the English language are the smallest, I am. Because whatever you put after that, that's your life. If you say, I'm a procrastinator, or, you know, as opposed to saying something like, I am worthy, it just changes everything, because it determines your life. It determines your destiny, if you will. So the first C is clarity. Get clear about your outcome. A lot of people don't remember what they read because they don't have clear goals. A lot of people, they're just really busy, but they don't feel like they're making progress because they don't know where they're going. So the first thing is you want clarity. The second C is, let's talk about care. I believe self-care is not selfish. And in Limitless Expanded, you'll notice, if you have the book, or I encourage you to order the book if you can, especially this week. If you go to limitlessbook.com, we're gifting a 13-day speed reading memory program where we talk about accessing flow states, so you could be in the zone more often, where things are easy, you feel good, things are more effortless, you're performing your best. We have a day dedicated in this free gift on changing your habits. I believe first you create your habits, then your habits create you, right? You eat your habits of having your shakes, or prioritizing your sleep and meditating, exercising, eating the best brain foods ever. And then those habits in turn create you back. So those are some of the self-care habits. And it's not just eating right. I just want to remind you, from a mental health standpoint, that you have permission to rest. right? You are not responsible for fixing everything that is broken. You do not have to try to make everyone happy. And remember to take time for you, time to replenish, because you are the greatest project you will ever get to work on by far. If you want your business to grow, though, you have to grow. If you want your bank account to grow, your brain has to grow, right? And the faster you learn, the faster that you could earn. But really prioritize self-care. Debbie, thank you for putting the website there. It's limitlessbook.com. You can follow me on Instagram. We put the link there also as well. It's at Jim Kwik, Kwik. Kwik really is my last name. I didn't change it to do what I do. You can say my life, my destiny was pretty much planned out. I had to be a runner back in school. You know, it's a lot of pressure also, by the way, when it says Kwik right on your shirt. I have to be very careful when I'm driving, because you do not want to be pulled over for speeding and have on your driver's license Kwik, because you're not going to talk your way out of that speeding ticket. And I get to do my dharma, which is teaching people how to focus quicker, how to remember quicker, how to read quicker, how to think more clear, and so much more. And these are real modern day superpowers. And I talk about superpowers a lot because, well, frankly, I remember I said I couldn't read. I taught myself how to read by reading comic books. I don't know how many superhero geeks are out there. You dressed up as superheroes growing up, pretended you were like Wonder Woman or Batman or Spider-Man or Superman, it's one of those things. But something about the stories, the illustrations just brought the words to life. And also, I believe we need modern day superheroes, somebody who has stepped into their power. And you all have different powers, right? Different traits. And also, but just having a superpower does not make you a superhero. You have to use that power for good, right? And so superheroes represented somebody who wanted to give me hope. They gave me real help, and they inspired me and empowered me to go to another level. The third C that I would think about nowadays is just having some chamomile tea here. I would think about contribution. You know, chronic stress, the reason why care is so important for your brain is that when you're in fight or flight and you're in that stress state, chronic stress has been shown to actually shrink your brain. Kind of a scary thought. Chronic fear will actually suppress your immune system, a whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology. It'll make you more susceptible to colds, the flus, the viruses. And I think one of the antidotes to that is contribution, right? Being in service to those who need it now more than ever. Because when you put your attention on somebody else, it lets you know that you're okay, that you're safe, and that you don't have to be able to worry. So contribution, I really do believe you learn to earn to return. The faster you can learn, the faster you can earn. That's very true nowadays. And then the more you have to give, to contribute. So it could be something simple too, something very simple. It could be making food for a neighbor. It could be doing something, posting something that you're offering, something that doesn't take a lot of time, checking in on friends and family members, checking on their mental health. The fourth C, and we're talking about the 6 C's to becoming more limitless, I would say it's creativity. I believe the future belongs to the creators. The future belongs to the creators. And did you know, I mean, I know we're on the other side of the pandemic, but did you know it was during the Great Plague that Isaac Newton, he couldn't go to school, so he had to go home and isolate himself. And that's when he came up with the theories of gravity, the theories of motion. William Shakespeare, during the Great Plague, he wrote some of his most amazing, works. He wrote things like Macbeth. And so how can you be more creative with your business, creative with your product or service, creative with your own personal brand and business? And then finally, 5 and 6, the 5th C, let's talk about capabilities. All right, capabilities. And what I think the most important capability to cultivate, which you all can do, is, well, let me ask you a question. Let's say there was a magical genie. Just imagine a magical genie. You have a lamp and you rub the lamp and a genie comes out but could only grant you one wish. What would you wish for? Put it in the chat. What would you wish for if you had one wish? Happiness, Beth, courage, a keen memory, health. Yes, I would wish for more wishes, right? Get those 50 wishes, 100 wishes, ask for limitless wishes, right? Now, that would be the obvious thing to ask. Now, let's say today I am your learning genie. And my power is I could grant you one wish and help you become an expert at any one subject or any one skill. What subject or skill? Would it be coding? Would it be investing? Would it be negotiating? Would it be marketing? What would the equivalent be of asking for limitless wishes? Awakening, understanding, connecting, listening better, investing, marketing. I would say, yes, Meg, I would say learning. If you could be an expert at learning how to learn, you could focus better, you could read better, you could remember better, you could think better. You're a great learner. What can you apply that to? Every single thing you listed: confidence, awakening, speaking in front of public, right? Because when you could focus and remember, retain, and read a book in a day or two, you could be an expert at anything. So you could apply it towards, if you could learn how to learn, you could apply it towards money, medicine, marketing, right? Management, martial arts, music, Mandarin, everything gets easier, not just the letter M's, right? And so everything in your life gets easier. So I think the only way to win is to learn faster than everybody else, right? Eric, who wrote the book Lean Startup, and I'll mention a number of books. If you've seen photos like you just did with me and Oprah and Elon, these individuals, people always ask, how did you meet? How did you bond and connect? We bonded over books, because leaders are readers. You read to succeed. I think reading is one of the most important things you can do for your brain. It'll up level. There's a reason why I remember spending time with Warren Buffett and we were playing bridge. And it was actually, I'm going to drop some names because it puts images in your mind. It was me and Bill Gates and Warren, and we were playing bridge. And he reads 500 pages a day. 500 pages a day, one of the most wealthy people in the United States. And so I believe that, yes, there might be a gap between those who have and those who have not, but there's also a gap between those who know some things and those who don't know. And those who know can make better choices. Going back to life is the letter C, between B and D. When you know stuff, you can make better choices in your health. You can make better choices in your relationship. You can make better choices with your money. You can make better choices also with your day-to-day living. So capabilities is the 5th C. And then finally, the 6th C, let's say community. And this is, I love this community. I love the energy that's here. You're very active. Who we spend time with is who we become. Because how do we become limitless? We do it together, right? That's exactly how we do it. And so we have this kind of like service mindset. We have strong connections with our customers, with our family, with our partners. And it's your key advantage that you have. And so just think about like how you can be able to grow your own community. And because they say we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, that if you're around 9 broke people, be careful, because you're going to be number what? You're going to be number 10, right? So you want to be able to be careful. And sometimes it's our family and friends that they have good intentions, but how many of you have family and friends that are like, what are you watching right now? Why are you always reading those books? Why are you always listening to those podcasts or going to those conferences, right? And they could have good intentions. Maybe they see you growing and they don't want to lose you deep down. Maybe they don't want you to get your hopes up. And I just want to remind you, you could choose your peers and you could love your family and your friends, but you could choose your positive peer group. So many people are so concerned with what other people think. And I get to spend a lot of time, because I lost my grandparents at such an early age. I spent a lot of time in senior centers, helping them polish off their memories. And I love the wisdom, because everybody could be your teacher. I believe the life you live are the lessons you teach. The life you live are the lessons you teach. So I get so much wisdom. But you know what? I also hear a lot of regrets. that somehow at that later stage in life, they're like, wow, I wish I would have, I pursued this career because it was expected of me, because my parents, wanted me to, or I didn't pursue this relationship because what other people would have thought about that relationship or that person. And I just want to remind you, and we'll get into the accelerated learning part and the brain optimization part, that when we're taking our final breaths, and this is not very positive, none of other people's expectations are going to matter, right? Your fear of rejection, none of your internal fears, none of other people's opinions. And I just want to remind you that we have this one life together, one life. Why aren't we like racing and running towards our dreams like we're on fire? So begin with the end in mind, as 7 Habits, I'm going to mention a lot of books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. By the way, how many of you know these books? Do you have them on your shelf? Like some of the books I'm talking about, have you ever bought a book and it sits on your shelf unread and it becomes shelf help, not self-help? Do you feel like it's taking a sip of water out of a fire hose nowadays, just trying to keep up with everything? How many of you came here today like to have a better memory? Yes, better memory. How many of you forgot why you came here today? Have you ever done this? Have you ever walked into a room of your own home and just forgot why you're there? Or go to the store to buy one thing and you come back with like 2 bags full of things, except for that one thing that you went there for. I believe that one of the challenges is that, when it comes to memory, I think 2 of the most costly words in life and in your business are I forgot. I forgot. Think about the consequences of saying, I forgot to do it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot what I just read. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what was said to me. I forgot that person's name, right? Every single time we say those words, we lose time. We could hurt a relationship. We could lose a sale also as well. On the other side, though, memory could make you money. When you could easily remember facts and figures, client information, product information, give speeches without notes, remember people's names. I mean, that is a skill set that sets you apart. You really look like an expert, right? Because life is not like it was hundreds of years ago when we're in fields, agricultural age, industrial age. That was more muscle power. Today, you're compensated for your mind power. It's not your brute strength. Today, it's completely your brain strength, because knowledge is not only power today, knowledge is profit. Please write that down. Knowledge is profit. Because when you know something about money or finances or your health, and I don't just mean financial profit, I mean all the treasures of your life. You want to be a learning machine like you were when you were a child. So how do we get there? I'm going to give you a number of quick tips, all right? And there are literally hundreds and hundreds of simple things that you and your family and your team could do. If you want to build a personal development organization, with your coaches, with your friends, get them this book. And again, we're donating all the proceeds for charity, for brain health. So know that you get your learning, but then also a child will get their learning that doesn't have access to it, that your brain will be better, but also we'll be doing research to help others to have a better brain also as well. So I appreciate the support. Holidays are coming up and they make a great gift. So that's my little kind of pitch for limitlessbook.com. And again, you get this 13-day gift, brain training, speed reading, memory training as my gift to you. So when you get the book, which will only be like a day or 2, but you also learn the basics in this program on how to speed read, improve your memory. It's the one book that will help you learn all of the books. We have a podcast. I don't know how many of you listen to podcasts. If you search my name in your podcast app or on YouTube, I mean, we have like 1.3 million people there. We put daily tips in there. We had somebody named Jay on recently, and he wrote the book, The One Thing, and he talks about the lead domino. All right. The lead domino is that domino you hit, and what happens? All the other dominoes fall and it gets easier, right? That's working smart, not working hard. And for me, Limitless Expanded is that lead domino. This book will help you learn all other books, help you read all other books, remember, understand all other books. And also the big part of this book is about application. I show you the science because I don't believe knowledge by itself is power. I believe it is potential power. It becomes power when we use it, because we know a lot. You probably have forgotten, this is a very high level group. You probably have forgotten more about success and personal development and health and wellness than most of your friends and family will ever learn, right? Combined. But the challenge is common sense is not common practice. So let's start with your memory first. I want everyone to write down MOM. Julie, thank you for the order. I appreciate that. MOM. So write down MOM. It's the mother of all techniques. By the way, the largest chapter in Limitless Expanded is on memory improvement. It is a massive chapter in the book. And I wrote it in Greece. And the reason why I was just so inspired, because I read that there's actually a goddess of memory. There's a goddess of memory. And do you know who her children are? The 9 muses of science, literature, and art. And isn't it interesting that the mother of science, literature, and art is memory, right? Socrates said, learning is remembering. But where was the class back in school? There was none, right? There's no class on focus, on concentration, on critical thinking, on accelerated learning and speed reading and comprehension. And there's certainly one. What do they teach you in the US school system? 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now, obviously that's not spelled with an R, but spelling wasn't one of them. But what about retention? What about recall? Right? So remembering is the basis of all learning, because if you don't remember it, you don't know it. Right? So MOM. So let's apply this towards how many of you have trouble, honestly, in the chat? Do you have trouble remembering names? Honestly, is that a challenge for you? This is like a support group. It's like Memory Anonymous. So let's say you have trouble remembering. Now, is it important to remember people's names? A little bit or a lot? Because how are you going to show somebody you're going to care for their health or their financial future or their family if you don't care enough just to remember what? Their name, right? People don't care how much you know until they know what? How much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so when you could easily remember people's names, then they feel like that they're important, that you care about them. So let's apply this towards remembering name, MOM. So you said and I think 95% of you said you have trouble remembering names. It could be a short-term issue. You get someone's name, the handshake breaks, and what happens? The name just disappears. Or if it's not a short-term issue, it's a long-term issue. You're like out and about, somebody taps you on your shoulder, you see someone you recognize, but for the life of you, you don't remember who that person is. And what makes it worse is when that person has the audacity and the nerve to remember your name, or you're talking to somebody you should remember and somebody comes up and you have to what? You have to introduce these 2 individuals, right? So let's say you have trouble remembering names, but let's imagine there's a suitcase of $1 million cash. It's yours, tax-free for you or your favorite charity. Only if you could remember the name of the next stranger you meet tomorrow. Who's going to remember that person's name for $1 million? Let's get some yeses here. Me. Now, I'm a brain coach, a memory coach. I want to ask you this question. How come you're all memory experts all of a sudden? So I'm going to call you on your BS, your belief systems, right? You can remember a name. The M in MOM, the first M, it's an acronym, stands for motivation. What is your motive for taking action? What's your motive for remembering that person's name? So a very simple tip you could do to remember names is just ask yourself inside your mind, why? Another great book, Start With Why. We've had Simon Sinek on our podcast multiple times. Ask yourself why. Why do I want to remember this person's name? Maybe it's to show the person some respect. Maybe it's to get a referral for my business. Maybe it's to make a connection, make a sale. Maybe it's to practice these things that I learned here in this optimal health wellness community. And what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public. Jim Rohn said that. What you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public, right? Everyone always sees on social media, the tip of the iceberg, right? All the success. And JC recently posted this on his Instagram if you're following him. But people don't see what's below the surface of the water, the training, the study, the practice. But what you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public. And you know this in your personal life. If you excel in certain areas, it took study, right? And I think the starting point for this is your mindset. 80% of success is your mindset, I would estimate. And so tap into that motivation, ask yourself why. Now the O in mom, everybody do this. Look at me on camera, do this. Shake out your hand. Come on, do this. I'm here with you right now. This is the active part of learning. You're not just, the human brain doesn't learn just through consuming. It learns through creating and cooperation. So shake out your hand, make a fist, put it to your chin. Now, come on, where's your chin, everybody? Did you fall for it? Put it in the chat. The O in mom is observation. Yes, I fell for it. You're honest, I appreciate it. Is observation. A lot of times you're not forgetting a person's name. You're just not observing the name. You're not listening to the name. I remember years ago, I was invited to a charity event, and there was 2,000 people attending. And they had these round tables because they had dinner there also as well. And I was the first one at my table. I like to be prompt. I feel like that if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, then you're on time. And I get there, and I'm the first one there. And then shortly afterwards, the Oscar winner actor sits right next to me, Forrest Whitaker. And then Sir Richard Branson sits right next to him. And then Ashton Kutcher and Ashton's twin brother, which I didn't realize he had a twin brother, sits down. And then President Clinton sits right next to me. Now I am dropping some names to make it memorable, because if I just talk about like Bob Smith, you might not remember it, but maybe if you see these individuals, some like on television or whatever, it'll remind you of the story, because we remember things through stories, right? Remember, before there were computers and digital devices and printing presses, we would remember things. We would pass on history through storytelling. And so Clinton, he called me by name, and he remembered my name because I had met him a few years earlier, very, very briefly. And I was like, wow. And then I was like, okay, he knew who he was sitting with. Clearly, he knew who was at his table. And then I swear, he picks up the conversation that we had 3 years earlier, and nobody was privy to that. Nobody was there. And so I was like, he was telling me this, and I was like, okay, I'm the memory coach. I need to know how you do this, because I have a core belief that genius leaves clues, that if someone is extraordinary at something, they are doing something that we don't realize, that there's a method behind what looks like magic. And he tells me the story of his grandfather in Arkansas in the living room. He would tell stories all the time to the kids, but he would do something different at the end of his storytelling. He would one by one quiz each of the children to see if they were paying attention, right? And by the way, when he's explaining this to me, I realized I was feeling like really seen. I was feeling really heard. Have you ever met somebody that they're just so present with you? Like I felt like I was the only one there, even though there's much more important people in that room, certainly at that table than me, right? But I realized politics aside, people would say Clinton has high charisma, a great communicator, a great connector, and he has this incredible memory and this powerful presence. And I believe that his incredible memory and his powerful presence with people comes from being powerfully present with people. That his incredible memory and his powerful presence comes from being powerfully present. Now, is this exclusive just to world leaders? No. Can we be more powerfully present with our coaches? Can we be more powerfully present with our family, with our children? Even right now, we can be more powerfully present. But so many times you're at an event, maybe you're networking or something, and you're looking over the person's shoulder, or you're not really listening. You're thinking about what you're going to say. You're waiting for your turn to speak, right? Another, I mentioned 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by one of my mentors, Dr. Stephen Covey. He says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Thank you, by the way, everybody who's ordering the book. That means the world. I can't tell you, this is the most complete final version of Limitless, and it's my magnum opus. It's, by the way, on a personal note, Jeannie, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to confess something to you, because this is just kind of, we're all friends here. We're all family. I've been doing this for 32 years. And the reason I updated the book, this new book, is because the world has changed a lot the past few years. So I wrote it for a post-pandemic AI world. And also my internal world has changed a lot. Besides turning 50 and entering another life cycle, I also, we had our first child this year, 10 months old. We just celebrated his 10-month, birthday, if you will. And I'm learning a whole lot, including not getting a lot of sleep, but that's another story. You might hear him in the other room. And he's kind of up, and so hopefully my wife is there with him, and we take shifts. But she knows how important this is, doing this. I don't usually do programs at night, just because of but this is, JC mentioned this, and I was like, I'm in. For me, everything is heck yes or heck no. When you're so clear, going back to the 6 C's on clarity, what's important, I have no FOMO, because it's like, either if it doesn't feel heck yes, then it's a heck no, man. So when JC said he's got this amazing community of optimal health and wellness, and I'm like, these are my people. Let me do like one of the only kind of live personal conversations and trainings I'm going to do about this book. And most of it's like pre-recorded and media and podcasts and stuff like that, but this is very intimate. And so I really appreciate all of you for showing up. But going back to this observation, the power of observation, I never wanted to be observed, because I grew up with learning difficulties as a child, and it was every day. It wasn't just elementary school. It was middle school, junior high. It was all through high school. I was always in danger of failing, especially English, high school English. And my superpower, talking about superheroes, back to comic books, was shrinking down. I would always compress myself. I look at old pictures when I was a kid, because I didn't want to take up a lot of space, because, I'd be vulnerable to bullying, or I wouldn't know the answers when teachers called on me. I would always sit behind the tall kid in class, right? My superpower is being invisible, because I didn't want to be seen or heard. And maybe deep down I wanted to be seen. Maybe deep down I wanted to be heard. But that stayed with me. So yet I want to help a lot of people, and I don't need to be recognized for it. But before the first book came out in 2020, I got in the car accident, and I almost died. And this was in upstate New York, and maybe I should have died. And I don't know if anyone's had a near-death experience, but it put things into perspective, and I signed the book deal the next day. It's been on my desk for 10 years, this book offer. And it just made me think about legacy, what I could leave behind. And I really would regret not have written this book. So I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my personal education to learn brain optimization, accelerated learning, speed reading, memory improvement, and decades of my life to do that. And I can tell you, you don't have to do any of that, because I put it all in this book. This is the book I wish I had. In fact, I have a belief for the entrepreneurs here that we are best suited to serve the person we once were. That we are best suited to serve and support and contribute to the person we once were. And for me, I wrote this for that 9-year-old boy who was just alone, had a lot of self-doubt, didn't believe in himself, was broken, couldn't learn, couldn't read, do anything. My teachers would have been surprised if I, honestly, even to this day, read a book, much less wrote books. But I feel a moral obligation to do what I do, because shame on us if you know something, you're offering a product or service that could help people, and you keep it from them, right? If somebody that in your network, your community is struggling with their health or their finances or some area of their life, and they're suffering maybe the way you used to, or you are going through, and you didn't offer something to them, I really do feel a moral obligation to do this. And that's my purpose. But going back to the O in mom is observation. A lot of people, when they forget something, they blame their retention when it's not their retention, it's their attention. The art of memory is the art of attention. The art of memory, the art of learning is the art of attention. Even this, write down the word listen in your notes. Just take out a piece of paper and just write down the word listen. Certainly share this this Zoom link with them right now, because we're going to go into Q&A, and I'm going to share some very practical tips on brain nutrition and changing your habits and optimizing your sleep and reading faster. Get your questions ready, absolutely. But a lot of people, if you take the word listen, you could scramble the letters. So do this brain exercise. Remember, there's no such thing as a good or bad brain. There's a trained brain and an untrained brain. In fact, there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and an untrained memory. Those courses that JC was talking about, we have since built the largest online academy for accelerated learning, where we teach you to read faster, improve your memory, improve your focus, all the real modern day superpowers. And we have students in every country in the world, 195 nations. So we get a lot of data. And I could tell you that you could do this too, regardless of your age, your background, your career, your diet, your level of education, your financial situation, your gender, your history, your IQ. We could all do this. We just were not taught. Going to a child and saying, focus, remember this. That's like going to somebody saying, play the didgeridoo or play the ukulele, who's never taken a class on how to do that, right? And so we never taken these kind of classes, and that's why half the book is all the methodology for learning faster in a fun, easy, effortless way. And so going back to scrambling the word listen, it spells another word perfectly. There's a little brain exercise. Danielle, silent. It's absolutely, it spells the word silent. So to remember something better, just be silent and still. It's one word. It's a name, right? 2 words max. You can remember it. You have the most amazing supercomputer on the planet. You know how many brain cells you have? 86 billion neurons. And each of them have upwards of 10,000 synaptic connections. And so the combination of them, you have more connections in your brain than there are stars in this universe. I mean, it is truly limitless. And so how do you reconcile that and forgetting where the keys are? Or if not your keys, something much larger like your car. You ever see the people in the parking lots, in the mall or something, at the grocery store using their car alarm like GPS, trying to figure out where they parked the car that day? And so here's the thing, like, it's just, we're not taught, or we're mindless. We're not listening, okay? The art of learning is the art of attention. And finally, the last M in mom are the methods. The methods on how to learn. How many of you would like to learn another language? How many of you would like to be able to give a TEDx talk with no fear, pure confidence, because you could remember everything you need to say, right? And these are things, again, that all of us could do. And I'll give you an example of that in a moment. Actually, I'll give it to you right now. I'll give you a method. One of the chapters in Limitless Expanded are on the best foods for your brain. Okay, it's a whole chapter called neuronutrition. So I'm going to give you this memory strategy, and then we'll open it up for questions. Okay, and I'll stay as long as you'll have me. All right. So what you eat matters, especially for your gray matter. What you eat matters, especially for your gray matter. And neuronutrition basically says that your brain is part of your body, but it requires different nutrients. Actually, your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients. Will this help with somebody with ADD? So many of, obviously, we have a very large reach in the millions. So a large part of them struggle with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia. And I could tell you, it's not how smart you are. It's how are you smart? It's not how smart you are. It's how are you smart? You look at individuals like Sir Richard Branson, who was in that opening intro video for me. He has dyslexia. It forces you. I take a very strength-based approach, using your current assets and the animals. I talk about brain animals. You should do this, mybrainanimal.com. This is something I've used with coaching clients for years, and it's a simple assessment that you could take that will show you your brain animal. It's kind of like, what Game of Thrones character are you? It only takes 4 minutes, and we made it free during the promotion opening week of Limitless Expanded. And we also do a whole chapter in here, and I'll talk about your brain animals, but absolutely, Jay, you're an elephant, Robbie's a cheetah, and people who haven't taken this yet, Sherry is a dolphin. You're like, what does that mean? Well, I'm gonna show you what these animals are and how you could use it to unlock new levels of limitless brain power. All right, so let's go to the brain foods. I'm going to share with you 10 foods that have been shown to support your brain, help you with focus, help you have greater mental energy, and they're very neuroprotective. Now, when I go through this, what I want you to do is I want you to remember it. But the challenge is, so imagine you're out and about and JC gives you a call and you're like, Dr. Doornick, how you doing? And you're like, hey, we're going to do a limitless brain party tonight. While you're out, can you just stop by the market and pick up these 10 foods? Let's make them 10. And we talk about more than 10 in the book that are scientifically validated to improve your brain health. And you're like, I'm driving, I can't write it down. Doesn't it always happen? Like you always think of something, but you can't write it down, like you're in the shower or something like that. And I don't know why you pick up the phone from JC when you're in the shower, but you're driving. Okay, so let's think of an easy way to remember this. This is a 2,500-year-old memory technique that they used in ancient Greece. And it's called the mind palace, where you took areas that you're very familiar with, and like your home or your office, and you take the information you want to remember, you transform it into a picture, like an image, and you put that image in a place that you're familiar with. So it's, imagine you're sitting in your kitchen and you're going clockwise and you say, okay, we named 5 places in your kitchen. So imagine this, take a deep breath, exhale. If you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, just close your eyes and just imagine you're sitting in the doorway of your kitchen and you're going clockwise. And for me, I'm going to name 5 places. The first place is my microwave. The second place is the oven. Third place is the refrigerator. The fourth place, dishwasher. Fifth place, sink. And then you could mentally walk into your next room and you're like, oh man, I should have cleaned before I joined this Zoom session. And you go clockwise there, and you can come up with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can repeat this in your home. If you live in a studio in New York City, you probably don't have a lot of options. You could go into your car or go to the mall, whatever you would like to in your mind. Remember, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Einstein said that. Imagination is a superpower, and we're going to cultivate it, right? So instead of using your home, because everybody has different homes, let's take your body. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through our body and we're going to name the 10 keys. And I would love, JC, if you could join on video, maybe we could do this together. All right, buddy. Let's memorize these 10 keys, the 10 brain foods together. You could be like kind of my subject. Everybody do what JC does also. All right. Because remember, the learning is not a spectator sport. All right, so let's get involved here. We're going to name 10 places on our body. You could stand up if you like. We're going to go top to bottom. All right, you're going to repeat what I say and touch the part of the body. So that way you're learning, I'm saying it, so you hear it. You're going to touch that part of the body so you feel it. And then we're going to also visualize it. All right, so you see it, feel it, and hear it. And if you're going to use all 3 of those senses, you're going to likely remember it better. All right. So the first place is the top of your head. So everybody touch the top of your head and repeat after me. What's number 1?
Top of your head.
Yeah, top. And then go down. Second place is the nose. And everybody, what's number 2?
Nose.
Nose. And then right down the body. 3 is mouth. What's number 3? This is your auditory memory. 3 is mouth. Very good. Now go to the side, your ears. 4 is what? Ears. And then 5 is throat. All right, we're halfway there, throat. 6, shoulders. 7, collar. Collarbones. So what's 7? Say it out loud.
Collarbone.
8 is your fingers. So wiggle your fingers, 8 fingers. 9 is your belly. What's 9? Say it out loud.
Belly.
And then 10 is your bottom. Okay. So again, let's do this really fast. Again, there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and an untrained memory, and we are training your memory. We're in the mental gym. Okay. 1 is
Head.
top. 2, nose,
mouth,
ears.
ears.
Everyone do it along with JC and I. 5 is throat. 6, shoulders. 7 is your collarbone. 8 are your
fingers.
9 is your belly, and 10 is your bottom. So now what we've done is we've just created 10 places you can store information. This is like, it's like a cheat sheet. It's like now you have your notes, but inside your mind instead of having to have it outside. Now what we're going to do is take the 10 great brain foods. And everyone, let me stipulate, you could talk to your nutritionist, go to a functional medicine doctor, you can do food sensitivity tests, because not everything is for everybody, but I'm going to just give you some options. So the first brain food are avocados. The monounsaturated fats, good for your brain. So I want you to imagine avocados all over the top of your head. Julie, it's good to see you. All over the top of your head. So you're using, maybe you may have guacamole as a scalp conditioner, right? Now, don't just hear me say it, see it, because when you could see it and hear it and then feel it by making it a little bit funny, you're more likely to remember it. Because the key to a long-term memory is information combined with emotions become a long-term memory. Part of your brain is called the middle brain. You have something that looks like a seahorse, and they call that your hippocampus, and that's where memory is formed. And that hippocampus, that seahorse, is connected to an almond. So imagine that seahorse eating an almond. That almond is your amygdala, and your amygdala is kind of like a switching station for your emotions. So notice that memory and emotions are attached. Like, how many of you could hear a song, it take you back to when you're a teenager, right? Or a food or a fragrance could take you back to when you're a child. Because information by itself is very forgettable, but information combined with emotions become unforgettable. So let's add some, pretend you're 8 years old, right? So the second place is your nose. Second food, blueberries. I call them brain berries. All berries generally are good for your brain. They're very neuroprotective, high in antioxidants. So imagine blueberries coming out of your nose. Feel it. What do the blueberries smell like? Good. Good. Very good. What does that feel like in your nose? Because if you ever saw blueberries coming out of someone's nose, how long would you remember that, seeing it once? How long would you remember it? Forever, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to repeat it over and over again like you do people's names. You don't have to repeat that script a million times or that phone number a million times. You see it once, see it, feel it, and say it, you're going to remember it. So blueberries come out of your nose. The rest will do very fast. Third place is your what?
Mouth.
Your mouth. I want you to imagine broccoli. The sulforaphane in broccoli is very good for your brain. Actually, if you sprout broccoli seeds, it becomes like even 10 times or more, even more protective. So imagine imagine JC or yourself, you have a piece of broccoli stuck in your teeth. Remember, have you ever had that? It's like really annoying. You're trying to get it out with your tongue. Broccoli, taste it. All right. And the fourth place are your what?
Ears.
Olive oil is good for your brain. We all hear about the Mediterranean diet. So imagine olive earrings, or imagine you're cleaning your ears with olive oil. Whatever you imagine, and even if you can't imagine it, imagine you can imagine it. All right. Cleaning your ears with olive oil. Number 5, fifth place is what? Your throat. And instead of an Adam's apple, I want you to remember the next brain food, which are eggs. Eggs are very good for your brain. If your diet allows, the choline in eggs, in the egg yolk, is a precursor to acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that's really good and important for your cognitive health and your cognitive performance. All right. So imagine hard-boiled egg in your throat. All right. Kind of ludicrous, right? But that's why you're going to remember it. 6 are your what? Shoulders. And I want you to imagine green leafy vegetables. So imagine shoulder pads made out of, I don't know, kale and spinach. So look to your left and right. You see spinach, you see kale as your shoulder pads. Good. We're almost there. Number 7 is your what? Collarbone. And I want you to imagine fish, specifically salmon. Salmon and sardines from a good, clean source, very good for your brain. You hear about omega-3 and your DHA, the good fats, which your brain is mostly fat. So imagine a necklace made out of salmon sushi. And just imagine it's a week old. How about that? All right, salmon sushi. That reminds me, JC, we have to go out.
You just made me realize we gotta go get some sushi.
Yes. So imagine a necklace made out of salmon sushi. All right, 8th place is, we're almost done. 8th is what? Your fingers. Next brain food, turmeric. Turmeric is a brain food. It's a spice. And I just imagine the golden powder all over your fingers. You just can't wash it off. Very easy. It takes it takes more time for me to say it than it is for you to see it. Their curcumin in turmeric is the active ingredient, and it helps to lower inflammation in your body. All right, so our turmeric roots, absolutely, you could do that. Christina, turmeric roots look like fingers, just put it connected. And then we're almost Doug, yeah, he's on it, turmeric daily. You can make like a golden milk with some almond milk, some turmeric. If you put a little pepper in it also, it'll help you absorb it better also as well. We talk all about this in the book, right? And then finally, let's talk about your belly, right? That's number 9. Walnuts, very good for the brain. High in vitamin E. Notice that a walnut actually looks like the human brain also. I don't think there's science behind it, but it's a good memory trick to remember it. But imagine walnuts coming out of your belly button. You're eating walnuts out of your belly button. Is turmeric powder, that absolutely, if it's not super processed, the DMK, yes. So imagine walnuts eating your belly. If you were at the park or at the mall and somebody was eating like walnuts out of their belly button, you would never forget that, never. All right, and finally 10 is what? What's part of your body? Your bottom, dark chocolate. Actually, JC, I don't even want to know what you're picturing right now, but dark chocolate on your bottom. It's high in flavonoids, dark chocolate, not milk chocolate or high sugar. Dark chocolate's wonderful. Cacao, very good for your brain. Generally also, besides the antioxidants, what's good for your mood generally is going to be good for your mind. All right, everybody. Now, JC just gave you that call. You couldn't write it down, so you put everything on your body. Now you hit the market. You're at the grocery store, Whole Foods, whatever, and you're walking down the aisles. You didn't need to bring your grocery list because you probably would have forgotten the grocery list anyway. And you have it on your body. What's on the top of your head? Actually, put this in the chat. What's in the top of your head?
There we go.
Avocados, very good. Then coming out of your nose. And this is the active part to ingrain it for you, not for me. I know what the list is. Blueberries, very good. Your mouth, what's stuck in your teeth? Broccoli. And your ears, you're cleaning it with what?
Olive oil.
Olive oil. And in your throat, you have an egg, okay? And we're halfway there, everyone. Number 6 is what?
Shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads made up of green leafy vegetables, your green veggies, kale, spinach, and everyone. Good. And then your collarbone, you have a necklace made out of what? You know it.
That smelly salmon. Leftover salmon.
Exactly. Salmon, sardines. And on your fingers, you have what?
Turmeric roots.
Turmeric. Very good. That's number 8. Your belly button. Look at everyone doing this. Walnuts. And then your bottom is everyone's favorite that you can never forget. Dark chocolate. Now, how's your memory, everyone? It's amazing. So you just memorized 10 things. We could have gone to 20, certainly. I challenge you, actually. Can you do it backwards? Can you try to do it backwards? What's on the bottom?
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. And say it out loud, everybody. Number 9, out of your belly button, you're eating
walnuts.
Walnuts. Your fingers covered in
turmeric.
Turmeric. Collar made out of
smelly salmon.
Smelly salmon. You're never gonna forget that one. Shoulder pads.
Green leafy vegetables.
Green leafy vegetables. On your throat, you have eggs, and then you can just go olive oil in your ears, stuck in your teeth.
Broccoli, blueberries, avocado.
Amazing. So you have a limitless memory. And so you could use this to memorize the speech. Let's say you want to memorize the 10 keys for having a limitless brain. And I talk about sleep and I talk about stress management. You could put that on your body, and because we make it into pictures. Why? Because the biggest part of your brain, the cortex, is your visual cortex. We tend to remember what we see. How many of you are much better with faces than you are with names? Give me a yes. Better with faces than names. Me, yes, yes, yes. You go to someone and say, I remember your face, but I forgot your name. You never go to somebody and say the opposite. You never go to someone and say, I remember your name, but I forgot your face, right? There's a proverb that says, what I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. What I do, I understand. What I hear, I forget. I heard the name, I forgot it. What I see, I remember. I saw your face, I remember your face. And going back to practice and exercise, what you do, you actually understand. So this is just one example of how to be able to leverage your memory. It took a lot more time to explain it than it does to actually do it. But as I said, you can walk around your living room, your bedroom, and come up with 5 places, each one, and then things that you need to remember about a product or service, just turn in a picture, and then you'll never lose your place. Right. And with that confidence gives you an amazing amount of confidence. And maybe everyone could help questions like Amy has here. What was the second M? Look at everyone. And that's why I love community, because you support each other, right?
Yeah.
Team, TEAM, together, everyone achieves more. So do we have time for questions?
I mean, well, do you have time for questions?
Dude, this is what I do. Yeah, let's do it.
So I have to, tell you a funny story about one of the first times when Jim and I just randomly reconnected after a couple of years and just out of nowhere realized that we lived right down the street from one another.
Isn't that amazing?
So went over to hang out with him. And then the second time I went there, I was so embarrassed, Jim, I forgot the name of your street. And I was like, I can't ask Jim that. Okay, so I've been collecting some questions as we've been going. So one that I would love to do, and I know a lot of people are interested, but this question comes from probably the most amazing human being in the world, my wife, AKA the chicken.
Yes.
She says, hey, first of all, she says, hi, Jim. And she says, it's chicken. She goes, Jim, what is the structure of your morning routine and how does it impact your focus during the day?
Yeah. So I believe first you create your habits, then your habits create you. And out of Stanford, they say about 40% of our day-to-day is just done habitually, right? But when did we actually design that time? And so there are a number of things you could do in the morning. I'm going to give you some of the things, and you don't have to do everything that I suggest. The idea here is to understand the principle behind it. And so I would say, okay, the first thing I do when I wake up is I do this kind of thought experiment. When I'm lying in bed still, I will imagine, remember, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. I'm ending my day and I'm coming back into bed. And maybe my wife asks me a question like, how was your day? And I imagine I say, it was amazing. We crushed it today. Today was just such a fantastic day. And then I ask myself, what had to happen in order for me to feel that way? Right? Beginning with the end in mind. Remember, clarity as one of the C's, getting crystal clear, because, like in sports, when it's time to like open up the champagne because there's a scoreboard. But are you creating that for yourself, your own champagne moments? So, and I don't think about my 200, like I promise you, it's not the 200 things on my to-do list. I narrow it down to 3 things personally and 3 things professionally. 3 things personally, and I just focus on those 6 things. And I just tell you, when I started doing that years ago, everything changed, because I started to begin with the end in mind and started to win more and doing the most important things. And they don't have to be big things. Maybe on that personal side is walking my dogs. I have a couple of dogs and just walking them around. And that was my time to just kind of disconnect to reconnect. Maybe it'd be having some Japanese sushi with my buddy JC and catching up with him. 3 things personally, 3 things professionally, right? Next thing, and in no particular order, when I brush my teeth, I'll challenge you all to brush your teeth with the opposite hand. And what do I mean by that? We all know there's a mind-body connection, but did you know there's also a body-mind connection? That using your body in different ways will actually stimulate your brain and grow your brain. There's a study done at Oxford University saying just learning how to juggle makes your brain bigger, creates more white matter, all right? Please write this down. As your body moves, your brain grooves. As your body moves, your brain grooves. But the other reason why you do this is because I'll give you two reasons besides, like they have these cross laterals that one half of your brain controls the opposite side of your body and vice versa, right? So that by using your left hand, it actually stimulates your right brain, and using your right hand will stimulate your left brain, right? But it's not only that. You know what it does? It forces you to be present. Remember I said a great memory comes from being powerfully present. And so focus is a skill and it is a muscle. It's use it or lose it. But most people, what do they do when they wake up? If you're honest, put it in the chat. What's one of the first things you do when you wake up? Watch this in the chat. What do you grab? Yeah, you touch your phone, right? And if I'm telling you, I have a video on Facebook has 37 million views. And all it says is just wait 30 minutes before touching your phone. Because when you wake up in the morning and you're in that relaxed state of awareness, you are very, very suggestible. And if the first thing you do is pick up your phone, you wire your brain for distraction. Because every like, share, comment, cat video is a dopamine flood, and you flex your distraction muscles. And then you wonder why you can't focus with your kids, or while you're at work, or while you're reading something. You read a page in a book, at the end, just forgot what you just read because you're flexing your distraction muscles, right? And so instead, though, when you're brushing your teeth with your opposite hand, whatever it happens to be, your non-dominant hand, it forces you to focus on it, right? So you're building your focus. And the other thing is, after a few days of doing it, it becomes second nature. And that is a signal to your brain that I could pick up new habits. It's a gateway habit, something so simple, eating with the opposite hand, brushing your teeth with the opposite hand. And once you do it, it becomes second nature. You go back and forth, right? Then you're like, wow, what other habits can I add into my life? I'll give you a few more things that you could do. I talk about the brain foods. You could certainly throw them into a blender and make yourself a brain power smoothie. I wouldn't put the eggs and the fish in there, but the blueberries, the avocados, some of the green leafy vegetables. If you want to put some raw cacao in there, awesome. But you know what I do now is I'm a big student of history, and back in Babylonian times and ancient Greek times, they used to believe everything was made up of 4 elements: air, fire, water, earth. And so recently I've been just experimenting with this for 12 minutes. I want to get those 4 elements into my body right away, meaning I will immediately go outside and I'll go barefoot and just get grounded. Now there is some science that suggests that grounding, there's an exchange of electrons, could reduce your stress. You're connected to nature. That's why I like a lot of the biohacking stuff, PEMF mats, if you're familiar with it, just imitates the Earth's frequency. So you ground yourself, you get earth, and then the fire is the light. One of the best things you could do for better sleep is to get direct sunlight first thing in the morning. Even 5 or 10 minutes could change your sleep patterns, because your eyes are the only part of your brain that's outside of your skull. And when you get direct sunlight, it resets your circadian rhythm, which is the rhythm for you to be able to rest and digest at nighttime. So even if it's hazy outside, not light through a window, because the glass could actually filter out some of the spectrum of light. Even if your outside's hazy or something, you'll still get the benefit of it. So that's fire. So I got earth and fire, and then I will hydrate. I had on our podcast recently a neuroscientist, a professor in New York City, and she's a neuroscientist and a nutritionist. What a great combination, right? Dr. Lisa Mosconi, and she was saying just a 2% dip in your hydration, just being dehydrated 2%, could dramatically compromise your cognitive performance. And staying hydrated, enough water in your system, could boost your reaction time, your thinking speed, upwards of 30%. Just staying hydrated. But at night, you could actually lose a pound of water through respiration, through perspiration. So hydrate. And you could put some structured water in, electrolytes or some sea salts or some lemon in it also as well. And then, so that's water. So I have the ground, earth, I have the sun, fire, and I have water. And then the last thing is air. And that's where I could do some breathing. There are breathing techniques we talk about in Limitless to help clear the mental cobwebs in your brain, whether it's fire breathing, alpha breathing, box breathing. But most people get tired when they're on their computer because even when they read, how many of you fall asleep when you read? Part of it is because your posture, when you collapse the lower 1/3 of your lungs, your lower 1/3 of your lungs actually absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen, right? So go to a good chiropractic doctor, get yourself checked. And that's actually how JC and I originally met. I was a patient for him with him. This was like 20 years ago. That's so wild. I get goosebumps thinking about it, buddy. I call them truth bumps, but there's a lot of provenance there. So I get the 4 elements, and that whole thing takes like 10 minutes. I'm just out there doing my breathing, drinking some water, getting some sunlight. And if you want to win the day, you have to win the first hour of the day. All right. There are many other things that you could do. We talk about in the book, a recipe for a great brain tea with mushrooms and certain things, turmeric and other things you could boost your brain power. If you like to read, you could do those kind of things. I think reading is to your mind would exercise your body. But yeah, let's get to the next question.
So do you have time for one more?
We could go. We could go.
I want to share with everybody is, obviously, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But when you know somebody like Jim and you read his book, you start to realize that your what you know grows, right? But one of the things that I've adopted from reading his book and just having this conversation is I always used to read to learn, right? I would try to read, but I mean now I like reading as much as I like things that I used to be addicted to in certain ways. And I just want everybody to know that, I started off reading 15 minutes a day, and it was part of my morning structure. And just imagine that I've taken that to just mowing through a book every week now as part of my morning structure. It's amazing. So Jim, here's an interesting question. So I don't know if anybody took advantage of it yet, but I'll put it in there again. So he's got the mybrainanimal.com.
Yeah,
see a lot of people, but here's a question. This is an interesting question about a perception that an owl has after taking the test. So this is from Jonathan Young. It's a good friend of mine. He says, I'm an owl. And he says, as an owl who enjoys taking it all in, right? He's starting to learn because you get this whole awesome information about yourself. He says that he often observes that the world has a lot of cheetahs in it, more so than dolphins and elephants.
It's interesting. So let me can I give everyone just a quick summary of what these animals are? Because some people might be a little confused when we're talking about cheetahs and owls and dolphins. So
I'm a
really
dolphin,
quick,
by the way, everybody.
yes, you are, and I'll tell you why. So mybrainanimal.com is a 4-minute quiz. You'll get, so how there's personalized medicine based on assessment of like your DNA or your genetics, and they have personalized nutrition based on assessment like your microbiome or some kind of nutrient profile. Well, we created personalized learning. And I realized that not every tip works for everybody because we have a different cognitive type. And I've identified 4 of them. And I pulled from, personality types like Myers-Briggs. I pulled from left brain, right brain dominance. I was inspired by visual, auditory, kinesthetic processing, multiple intelligence theory, introvert, extrovert. And we created this, and we go way deeper in the book. But let me share with you the 4 animals. Remember code, brain code, CODE. You're like, wow, I'm writing a lot of notes here. The C are your cheetahs. So I'm going to give you just 30 seconds on each. The cheetahs, the primary dominant trait of a cheetah is they go into action. All right. They have strong intuition. They don't think a lot. They just go right into it because they could easily adapt and adjust. All right. The O are your owls, and your owl's dominant trait is logic. They love data, they love numbers, they love facts, they love figures and formulas. They do deep kind of research and study. Now notice, even if just those 2 animals, knowing their primary traits, they would buy differently. If you're going to influence a cheetah, it's different than influencing an owl, because an owl wants all the facts and they want to be able to present things in a logical order. Even they would read different. A cheetah would kind of skim and scan because they're going through things fast, but an owl will read for the details. right? The D are your dolphins, and your dolphins are, here you go. This is your owl. This is your cheetah. We had these at the book party that you mentioned in Miami. The next one are your dolphins, and your dolphins are their primary trait is their imagination, their creativity. The future belongs to the creators, right? In this world. So your dolphins are actually the animal, and you get these AI art. And I encourage you actually to post it, tag JC, myself, whoever else is on here, and post your animal and see what your friends are. Put a link, My Brain Animal, in your post and see what animal they are, because it'll explain a whole lot about their behavior, a whole lot. So dolphins are creative visionaries. They're great pattern recognizers. They are great problem solvers. They often have a vision for their life or the future of their business that maybe other people can't yet see. Famous dolphins would be Walt Disney, J.K. Rowling's for Harry Potter, right? And then finally, your E are your elephants, and your elephants, the primary dominant trait is empathy. These are your team players. These are your community builders. These are the people that are extremely loyal, and they keep people together, right? Now, it's interesting when I go through this, because I had our whole team take this assessment, obviously. And did you know 100% of our customer service team, what animal would you think? Put it in the chat, because you're going to go toward your strengths, right? Your element. You're going to even find roles and jobs and careers and entrepreneurship endeavors. Elephant. Absolutely, Sherry. Elephant, because they're highly empathetic, they're compassionate, right, to our customers. They're there to serve. They're our community builders, and they want people to feel seen. They want people to feel heard. Our CFO, our financial officer, is very strong owl, and you want that person to be an owl, right? All the data and the numbers. My business partner of 17 years. She is our CEO. She is our dolphin. A lot of entrepreneurs are dolphins because they have a vision of freedom and impact and the things that they could see. And so it's interesting. It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. But when it comes to learning, let's say your brain animal is one thing and the teacher is another. So it's like love languages. Right? In the love languages, if you want, words of affirmation and acts of service, you're just not connecting. And it's just like learning. Your learning style is different than their teaching style. And it's like two ships in the night, and you pass each other and you don't even realize the other one's there. There's no connection. And that makes learning take more time. It makes it more uneasy, uncomfortable, and the quality is not quite as good. So my point in bringing this up is, once you know your brain animal, I can show you how to read faster. I can show you how to remember names based on your brain animal. So when you take that test, and the quiz is even more in depth in the book, you could actually get great perspective. Like one of my favorite movies is The Matrix. How many of you saw The Matrix? Yes, anybody? I'm just kind of geeking out here. So when Neo goes to see the Oracle for the very first time in the kitchen, I don't know if people notice this, but above the door was a sign that said what? Know thyself. I think a big part of the quest that we're all on for fulfillment is you need the curiosity to know yourself, and then you need the courage to be yourself. You need the curiosity to know yourself. That's why people do different things to know themselves. They go to therapy, they do plant medicine, or they journal, they do introspection, right? But once you get to know yourself, you also need the courage to be bold and be yourself. Regardless of other people's opinions and expectations and rejection and everything else like that. But once you know your brain animal, you could parent different, right? You could influence different. You can hire different. You could train and manage different. It just gets easier. Even think about communication styles. If you think about communication styles, cheetahs are direct to the point, right? They don't really have to beat around the bush, right? Because they want to be able to save time and be able to act. If you think about owls, they communicate methodically. They prefer details, especially if you're influencing an owl. So you better have those details of product information and ingredients and, different plans, whatever you're offering them. But they tend to communicate in a logical sequence, presenting facts and figures and data. They're more patient because they want to get to the logic. If you think about dolphins speak in the big picture, right? Future plans, innovative ideas. They're very enthusiastic. They're infused with passion almost naturally because they're excited about all that future possibilities. And then an elephant would communicate differently because they're collaborative. Elephants are very keen on understanding and validating the feelings and perspectives of others. They use words like, instead of me and I, elephants would use more team-oriented words like we and us. They're very patient listeners because they want people to feel heard and they want them to feel valued. They are consensus seekers because they often try to find common ground and build a consensus. So like my point in bringing this up, and I'm glad you asked, JC, is because when you understand your brain, you can work your brain better. And life gets so much easier because your brain doesn't come with an owner's manual, and yet it is responsible for everything. So I wrote Limitless Expanded to be an owner's manual for your brain. It's specifically to be able to use it, to be able to achieve and perform at really limitless levels, to redraw the borders and boundaries of what's possible now and also crush it in 2024.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys understand what we've just had. I mean, that's just amazing. And buddy, wow. I was like, hey, Jim, can you speak to our community for a couple minutes? You are amazing, my friend. And just so you know, there's so many more questions. I see them in the chat and my phone is blowing up. Please understand something. Every one of your questions, you will not only have in the book, like I see people saying, how do I become less distracted? How do I create more focus? How do I speed my reading and memory retention? All that stuff, create momentum to close out this year, accelerate next year. That's all in here. I mean, I mow through books, guys, and this is a special one. Interestingly enough, this is one of the books that I did not speed read through because there were so many things to stop at and learn and document and stuff. My brother, thank you so much. My last, just rapid fire, what is your message? I mean, obviously there's a crazy world going on right now, a lot of fear, concern, uncertainty. What do you see happening for humanity in 2024?
I'm very optimistic. It's more my nature because of the struggles that I went through, and everybody has their own story and their own struggles. I believe in so much possibility. I believe you change your brain, you change your life. You change your brain and you change the world. But everything has to start. And when people say like you have to be the change that you want to see in the world, I think it starts right here. Like you notice I'm wearing a shirt with my brain. In pictures, I'm always pointing to my brain because what you see, you take care of. If you see your car, your clothes, your skin, your hair, you take care of it because it's in your constant awareness and you know if it's getting dirty or muffled, but you don't see the thing that controls everything, which is the brain. So I'm always pointing to my brain or wearing brains on my shirt because I want to remind you to take care of the thing that takes care of us, right? Your brain has this limitless capacity to learn, to be able to lead, to be able to live and laugh. And I feel like my message to everybody, regardless if we get the book or not, is just going back to the imagination and taking the invisible and make it visible. Like my mentor, Wayne Dyer, he said, it's not that you'll believe it when you see it. It's that you'll see it when you believe it. And I know it's tough. Many people starting businesses after their 9 to 5. And I want to remind you, you feed your business until it feeds you, right? And we limit complaining because that's just a waste of resources, of time and energy and focus, because we can't be upset by the results we didn't get from the work we didn't do. But when I'm talking about work, you are the greatest project you're ever going to work on. And you want to take time, you want to make time to create magic. And I truly believe that there's a version of yourself and your business and your bank account. There's a version of yourself that's patiently waiting. And the goal is we show up every single day until we're introduced.
Beautiful, beautiful, my friend. What a special night. Thank you so very much, everyone. And just so you know, there was some sort of a mess up with the the link and this and that. So a lot of people are watching this on Facebook. This has been recorded. We'll make sure that this gets out and you can share it with all your friends tomorrow. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you,
and
everybody.
I will see you soon for that sushi date.
Absolutely. Be limitless, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.